First off, I think about surgeons, which you are, and the precise cuts that you have to do and planning you have to do when you're in that situation where you have this patient in front of you. Like it is imperative that you are exact. But when we are dealing with our health, we have removed ourselves from our health.
Mhm.
It's something we manage, our doctors manage, our conditions are managed. And I think my big idea is you should not separate yourself from your health.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness at the Speed of Light. I'm really excited to dive into some interesting conversation today. Alice Burron, who is really you're gonna really like what she has to say because she is going to really teach us and teach me because I've never heard this before. I've had a lot of people on my show and I'm on social media all the time and I see people. It is really going to be interesting to talk about health decision making and how people can make better decisions for themselves and navigate these journeys that they're on. And everybody that knows me and watches my podcast knows how frustrated I am with the current state of the medical system, the traditional medical system, and there's so much more outside of that. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And this is also, so can you, okay, so we're going to get a little housekeeping out because people need to really, there's certain concepts they don't understand. So what I try to do is just really get into exactly what it is that you do in exercise physiology. What does that even mean? And how is that different than, for example, can you compare that with if somebody were to see somebody like yourself or talk to you, how would that be different? How would your philosophy maybe be different than, let's say, a physical therapist or something like that?
Yeah, I can go down that a little bit, but first, it all started with curiosity, just trying
Mm,
to understand why our bodies behave the way they do. So I started in biology, exercise science came as my master's. So I really was
mm,
from the cellular level trying to understand how that all fit together in a system, like a digestive system, et cetera, and then kind of expanding from that. Exercise is the great experiment on the physiological system. So, when you introduce exercise, you can study the rest of the system and learn so much. So, when I was in getting my master's degree, I started to dive into this understanding of overtraining. What
mm,
is overtraining? And it's pushing the body to the max and then seeing if we could make them perform after giving them some rest. So what you learn from that is fascinating. You learn some things like what cortisol is really doing
mm,
to the
mm,
body, positive and negative, because it's not all negative. It's actually a great physiological response, and then how we repair and recover from that. And not only as an athlete, but this actually related to aging cells and aging. My master's thesis was on looking at the cellular biology of rats, and I actually trained rats on a treadmill and watched to
awesome.
see what happened to their muscle cells, and did they actually adapt and improve, and did they live longer? They did. So what did that tell us? So that told us that there is something about exercise and the benefits of actually pushing a little bit beyond our limit and then giving us enough time to rest and recover can actually exceed and we build even stronger, which makes sense when you're thinking about muscles, right? That's what we do in the gym. We lift weights and then our muscles tear down literally. And then our bodies, introduce all kinds of hormones that build it back up again. So when we look at studying exercise from an exercise physiological standpoint, we're looking at the physiology of what induced exercise can do to a system. But what that does then is actually it opens the door to what about everything else? What about nutrition? What about
Mm,
stress? All of the other things that come into play. Now, you look at personal training, for example, and I'm a personal trainer. So when you look at personal training, you're like trying to introduce exercise in a way that actually improves overall health
Hmm.
in all kinds of capacities, balance and strength training and cardiovascular systems, and not too stressful, just enough. And if you're an athlete, then you want to peak perform. So you do periodization to make sure you get to that point. But when you're a physical therapist, for example, then you're actually looking at how do you recover from an injury. So you focus in, you actually focus on that injury and you work around that spot. You're not looking at an entire system anymore. You're now like honed into a knee, into a shoulder.
Hmm.
And then you introduce ways to actually build strength around that injury and help that injury to recover. It's the same principle, but personal trainers are looking at the whole body. Exercise physiologists are looking at the response of the body, and when you look at, when you're going to physical therapists, they're looking at recovery from injury.
I'm going to just ask you a basic, because this things like this come up. Why do people like yourself have these epiphanies like early on and understand the importance of exercise and what it can do for for our lives and our mental health, our physical health, just everything? And why is that so difficult to translate to the human beings that sit across from me when they're coming in and their back hurts and there's nothing I'm going to do as a surgeon or send them for anything, because literally they don't have anything. They have almost a normal spine in many cases. And we start getting into the conversation of diet and exercise. And I know you're into the dieting thing and everything, because you're just a holistic whole body, wellness. Why is it so difficult for people to tie the average person to understand that exercise is not just about building muscles, but it's going to strengthen every part of their system? Their resilience is better. And when I say resilience, their ability to deal with everyday stressors, right? We know that people that exercise more, or at least not overtraining, people that exercise as part of as a good program, they can deal with these things more. What is your strategy? Let's just say you were teaching a physician. I've said, hey, you know what? I need you to coach me for a couple of hours on how to tell. But why is there such a disconnect between the incredible things that happen when people exercise, including just healing in general, not just healing the knee, like you said, but just healing the body? Why is there a disconnect?
This is a forever question, but I wanna just say, first off, I feel sorry for physicians because they're put in this position to be in a room with someone who could have prevented the very thing they're there for, and everyone's looking to the physician to help.
Yes.
And that's not fair because if you look at a physician, they're trained to treat. They're not trained to educate on all lifestyle things. Now, I think that could change. I would love to see a big sign in physician's office that says, "Have you exercised? Have you eaten well? Have you been drinking water? And have you been getting sleep? And if you haven't, go home and do those things before you come back." Because that's not happening. I wish that were happening, and honestly, I think maybe it will at some point, but you're right. I mean, once you understand the physiology behind exercise and the value of it, and nutrition, hydration, and sleep, I
Mhm.
call them the core four, you really realize they're foundational from a physiological perspective, but people don't know that. We're educating bits and pieces, it's fragmented,
Mhm.
and honestly, the problem is our culture. And we are not teaching the skill of having to navigate the crazy culture that we're up against. We have to teach people how to think about their health differently. And the fact is we can do better. We can definitely do better. So as I've been working in healthcare, I mean, I've been in the industry for a very long time, one-on-one with personal training in cardiac rehab, working with people who have had heart disease and are recovering. I've also worked, in healthcare as, I mean, doing all of the things in healthcare, even on the nursing side, and then looking at it from the wellness side and population health. And the truth is, we're not doing well in all of them. And I was intrigued by that. And you hit the nail on the head, Dr. Stefano. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. What do we do
Yep.
about it? So my curiosity around physiology then changed to I understand the physiological like components and benefits, but people don't. Why? and what's going on in their thinking. And so that's where I changed to psychology. It
Hmm.
was moving from physiology to psychology and health coaching. If I were to sit in a room with a physician today,
Hmm.
like yourself, and say, okay, you got 2 hours of my time, let's dive into this, I would definitely start talking psychologically. I would talk about the biases and all of the things internally an individual has to overcome to make a better health decision. Because what they're doing is expecting the healthcare system to do the very thing that they probably can do themselves, but they haven't been given the skill to do that. Is it in the physician's scope? No. And I don't know that it belongs there, to be honest. I feel like what we need to do is empower individuals, and we need to help them gain that skill. And I just gotta have I gotta say a couple of statistics to kind of
Please.
support this.
Yes.
But according to Physicians Poll, 20.6% of medical care is unnecessary, including 22% prescription medications, 25% of medical tests, and 11% of medical procedures. And more than 41% of men and 32% of women in the US have prediabetes, and more than 80% don't know they have it. And conversely, 71% of Americans rate their overall health and wellness as good or excellent. Now, why is that? There's a disconnect. They aren't healthy, but they think they are. So we've got to make that connection, and we've got to create the environment to do so, sure. But internally, we have to help people understand themselves. So I'm going to go back to this over and over again. We have to help people be more curious. We have to help people be more self aware. And how do we do that? I mean, if you are at all aware of health coaches and what they do, we really need to teach people to coach themselves or work with a health
Yes.
coach. But that's why I wrote a book around health decisions called Health Shift to teach people how to coach themselves from a very gentle way, not telling them what to do, but evoking the change within them. And that's what it's going to take, in my perspective.
No, I think that that's brilliant. And so I think that it's interesting because the what's so interesting about what you're doing is that it really connects with the book that I have coming out, where it's really about empowering people to take ownership of their own health. One of my pet peeves in general in what I see and the way that people handle things, and you said it exactly right, is that they come to our office as physicians and they just want us to fix them. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're doing all these things. Most chronic disease, 80 to 90% of chronic disease is absolutely 100% lifestyle self-inflicted, period. And then they're coming in, and then we get pigeonholed into treating them because we're doing sick care, right? 90% of our dollars go to sick care. That 10%, though, is so critical. It's a difficult position for a lot of physicians. We also don't get the training in school. So I had to like self-train myself. I mean, I've become, I'm so deep into integrative health, but I did it myself. I had to step out of where I was like 3 years ago. And eventually I became so passionate about it. And now we got all kinds of projects going on. I did the podcast, I did other things, but I had to pull myself out because the stories, and I'm going to go to the medication thing because I'm going to disagree with one of your statistics because I'm going to be even more ominous about even what you said. But I had to pull myself out of it because the brainwashing that goes on in our society, conventional medicine, and our society in general teaches people that everything is drugs and procedures and all this stuff, and it teaches us that it's okay to eat like crap because it's okay, indulge, YOLO, you only live once, all this nonsense. Well, you keep only living the once, but you're going to live a lot shorter if you keep YOLOing the situation. But let me get to the medication. You said 22, I had not heard that statistic. You said physicians say that 22% of prescription medications are not necessary. Well, let me tell you about my patients. My patients come in and I look at the long laundry list of all their diagnosis codes, right, that they have, and then their long list of medications. A lot of my patients come in with the baggie full of all these prescription drugs. And then I start asking them about it. And they have no idea why they're on some things. They're like, oh, I take this for my high blood pressure. I was like, well, that's interesting because that's an antidepressant. So that's not probably for, and so we start going through this and then we start saying, well, why are you on 3 diabetes medication? It doesn't make sense. Why are you on all these hypertension meds? So they don't even know what they're on. So I'm going to dispute that number at 22%. I think that they are asking physicians that live in silos. I talk about it all the time. Great physicians absolutely are the ones that can get people off of meds, not put them on meds. Okay. We get taught how to put people on meds. We got to get them off of meds. But it is ridiculous what people are being treated for. You go in, I'm sad, you get an antidepressant. You have one or two high blood pressure things without having any idea what the root cause of the thing is. You get put on pressure medications when we know that just simple red light therapy can decrease your blood. I mean, it just, nobody is looking at the root cause. So I had to take myself out of the traditional system. Yes, spine surgery is traditional, but I look at it a totally different way when I see my patients. So for example, I just came from a clinic right now before doing this podcast. Half of my patients, they came for spine surgery, but we turned them into integrative health clinics. We're talking about their hypertension and their obesity and what meds they should and what they need to be off of. And they weren't expecting that unless they've watched my stuff, but they're happy. They're like, doctor, you're the first person that ever picked that up. And I'm like, man, we are living in a sad, sad time because the person in front of me is sick. So on that note, sorry to go. You feel free to check me anytime. I could go on these big rants. What that really, segues into is really your this idea. I like that title, health shift, because it really resonates. It's like, how do we think about our health differently? So when we think about like this strategic decision making, this is where really I want you to educate, the audience and myself, is what's wrong with the way people are making decisions right now, and what is your strategy for working on that?
Well, first off, I mean, I think about surgeons, which you are, and the precise cuts that you have to do and planning you have to do when you're in that situation where you have this patient in front of you. Like, it is imperative that you are exact. But when we are dealing with our health, we have removed ourselves from our health. It's something we manage, our doctors manage, our conditions are managed. And I think my big idea is you should not separate yourself from your health because you are your health.
Hmm.
And that sounds intuitive, but I think we've given our health away. We've given it to chance, we've given it to doctors, we've given it to the environment, and we haven't thought about it. But we need some more precision in how we think about our health. So I deconstructed a health decision. It was a geeky thing to do. I
Love
actually
it.
went
Love
to
it.
so many different articles as it was around COVID, and I had access to a great library because I was getting my doctorate. So I thought, I'm going to just use this library. I'm going to try to figure this out. I used intentional change theory as kind of my model, which is just this simple, effective 5-stage model that focuses on helping individuals achieve this desired change and sustain it. And so I kind of went with that and said, all right, if we want someone to make a better decision, we have to use some kind of Bayesian reasoning where we really have to help people update their beliefs. But right now, they're stagnant in their beliefs. And how do you do that? And one way to do that is self discovery. So, self awareness is a very big component to this. So, I would say one thing we have to understand is not only our health and understanding what's going on with it, but how we want to manage our health, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And I want to say how we want to own it because we can create, I call it a health policy, basically. We have to understand how we want to manage our health before we manage it. If we're going to be dealing with a health disease, let's say your doctor tells you you have high blood pressure and you're in the doctor's office and they say, here's some blood pressure medication for you. If you don't have a filter to think about that and filter that information through and go home, take a minute, pause. And it reminds me of Viktor Frankl. He says, between a stimulus and a response is a space.
Mhm.
And so we can take that space and come back and think about it analytically and critically. And I think that's really important, that it's a skill that we are not teaching our kids. We have not been taught, but to stop and just examine this problem, examine the cause of the problem. Just think about it is all I'm asking people to do. Ask questions, be curious. Why is it that I have this high blood pressure? Has this been going on a long time? Is this something new? What are the positive and negative influences on me in this moment? Is Are medications where I want to go with managing my health in general? Because if once you put yourself in the healthcare system, good luck getting back out. It's a real challenge because it is a rabbit hole. Once you're in, it's a cycle. Then you continue to stay in and actually you keep adding to that. So you're now in the healthcare system, quote unquote. Now, that's not always bad. Sometimes that's great because you want to get treated. Sometimes you don't need to be treated. So that's another curiosity question. So just asking those questions, is this something that I can do? Or do I have to give it to the treatment path and protocol? And then just really verifying facts and doing research and knowing what misinformation is. So basically, it's work. It's a skill.
Yes.
And no one's teaching this skill. And it isn't as hard as you think once you get into it. It starts to become relatively second nature, like I call it a heuristic, a positive heuristic. Basically, your brain defaults to the way you do this. It just happens after a while. It's like a habit. You just start to do that. You start to think differently about your health. But you also start to learn about yourself. How do I make decisions? What are the biases that are getting in my way? I mean, do I like present bias where I just want the immediate? Because a lot of people are subject to present bias. They want the rewards
Yes.
now over the future rewards that are even better later. So that's present bias. Or do you have decision fatigue because you have so many options and you don't know where to go next? And this is if you're there right now and you're in a position where you're not sure what to do, I'll tell you, you have more control than you think you do. Just stop really quick. Stop. Just take a breath and know that you don't have to always go medical first. You have complementary medicine or complementary therapies that can help. And lifestyle is so powerful. The core four, like I said before, exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. If you don't have those down, no matter what medications you're going to take aren't going to be effective. They're not. So you need to look at those things first. That's number one. And then second, it's like, all right, then how do I want to manage my health next? Do I really want to lean on medical? That's a health philosophy. Create that. Start to think. And if I know this might sound overwhelming for some people, it's not as bad as you think. I'm kind of throwing it all up here, but the book does line it out in a nice, clear, simple way. And just trying to understand yourself is the first step.
To me, it makes perfect sense, right? Because I have awoken to this reality as a physician that people have trouble, going from, and they do get caught in this endless loop. And so I've made posts before and I talk about it's like Groundhog Day. It's just like, it's the same thing. These people, they're just doing the same thing
Yes.
and it's not working out. But eventually, Bill Murray, eventually he figures it out. He figures out what am I been doing wrong? And he starts learning all these skills. Great
Yeah.
movie for those who haven't seen it. But, they're just going into, but here's one of my critiques that I make. It's brilliant the way that medicine and big food and big ag and all this corporatization, right? Physicians hate the corporatization part, but they get sucked into it and they're whatever. It's actually brilliant because if we keep people sick, they keep coming back. It's great for business, but it's not okay. It's not good for the patients. I've been treating patients for 20 years. Some of them have become so sick in that time. And I look down and we share birthdays, like, or we're around the same age, and they're 20 years older than I. They've aged and it's themselves, their life. They smoke, they do all this stuff. So what I was going to ask you is, everything you said is spot on. What are the barriers though? Like what are the biggest barriers that people have to that? So
Mhm.
like in your perception, because there's people going to be listening to this and they're like, this lady, she doesn't understand my life. I got all this stuff. You don't know my life. It's easy for you. You're in Wyoming. It's beautiful where you are. You know, whatever. People just start making stuff up. They're like, you don't know what I'm going through. You know what? We're all going through plenty of stuff. People go through what they go through. So what are the barriers?
Can I say there's external barriers for sure, but the internal barriers are the things we can control. The biggest barrier is yourself, and if you don't agree with that, then you're lacking health humility, I call it. And what that is just this humbleness to recognize that we really are our own stumbling blocks, and I say that kindly. I'm there too. We all make mistakes around our health and we just jump into the thing. We react. We don't think. That is human nature. And I want to say that's everyone I've ever met, to
Mhm.
be honest.
Of course.
But if someone were to look outside of you and you ask them, "How do you think I manage my health?" What do you think they would say? And that's part of self-discovery because what you think about your health may not be true. And that's where curiosity really comes in. And I don't know everyone's life, but I do know everyone is going through it. Can I just tell
Mhm.
you? Everyone is going through it. Everyone today is dealing with some kind of challenge or stress, or Wyoming doesn't have fresh fruits and vegetables like a lot of places. It just doesn't. But I can still be healthy here. But it's because it's intentional. I don't just let the environment rule my circumstance. And no matter how little money you have or how much money you have, there's always a way. It just may look different. And it's going to look different for you versus for me. So we have to find our own unique path. We can't look at our neighbor and say, oh, they're doing this diet. I'm going to do it too.
Mm.
We have to think about it in terms of what is this going to really do for me in the long term? Can I sustain this?
Yes.
I call it creeks, where in the book I call this the creeks method of thinking about any kind of health intervention that might be in front of you today. It's cost, risk, effectiveness, effort, commitment, and support.
Mm.
And if you look at all of those variables, is the thing you're doing with your health something that you can sustain over the long term? Is it something that you can afford? Do you have the support to do it? And these aren't like the only questions you can ask, but it does give you some place to start. And I want to say one great example that shines a light on how this might help, this way of thinking might help us, is looking at GLP-1s.
Mhm.
Those medications that are intended for us to lose weight instantly, almost instantly. And I have been diving into the world of GLP-1s and really, trying to understand my biases against this medication and being clear about that, but also looking objectively after that. And I did write a really long article about that, and I was in true honest form. So you can see where I stand on that. And also where I would, if you disagreed, I would totally understand that too, as long as you think about it. The goal is to actually go through the work and think, is this something that I can do over the long term? Is this really resonating with the way I want to be with my health forever? And a lot of people aren't thinking through it. They're just doing that the presence bias where they just jump in. So, the biggest barrier honestly is ourselves to our health. The biggest barrier that we're dealing with today when it comes to our health isn't fast food. It isn't the healthcare system. It's us and how we are interacting with the environment around us and how we are making the decisions to do so or not.
Yeah, I think that the thing that struck me the most there in what you said, it's the great word. It's intentionality. You really have to be intentional, and it's just that goes true not just for your health, for everything that you do. That's why people get into these bad places because they're not intentional about what they do. If you're waking up every morning and you just have no idea how you're going to live your life or what you're going to do or what commitments you're going to, hold to and what you're not and all this stuff, people get completely lost and right and then they're just like a ship with no sail. You could have the best captain. It just kind of goes in circles or just kind of goes around. So that intentionality of the way you do it is critical. And that is when you're intentional about what you do, and you said it right. Like when you really understand what you're expecting from living can you maintain it over a long period of time? Do you expect it to make you healthier? All these different things. It's very different than willy-nilly just doing some fad diet for a week and then I do this other thing. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be like some of these dudes that I see at the gym. They only do biceps and chest. That's not like the whole body approach, not to get into it. Couple other, it's interesting, the GLP-1. I have not read your article on GLP-1, but I certainly will, because this is something I've talked about a lot with different, and people fall on different ends. Like I had this guy, Dr. Bloom, who's one of the most kind of famous neuropharmacologists in the world. I mean, he should have won the Nobel Prize. He figured out the gene for alcoholism, this allele that makes whatever. This guy's brilliant. He's written all kinds of articles to all the governing bodies and to Nature and to all these people. His concern with the GLP-1s, and this is going to be different than where, but he's just concerned that we don't know how it affects the pleasure reward centers of the brain over a long period of time. He's really worried about that. And that's he's looking at it from a chemical, standpoint. I look at it a little bit different. My concern is that in our society, the easy button is absolutely destroying us. And so now we just created another easy button. And now, oh, I got this. It's the same thing. And we talk about like underserved communities. I've talked to like, I've had some great guests and we've talked about like the diabetes problem, for example, in underserviced communities. So for example, like in the Black community, people are just like, I got the sugar. I'm just going to get the sugar pill. It's just easy.
Yeah.
Until you're getting an amputation, then it's not so easy, right? To get around and stuff like that. So we are really playing into the easy button. Okay, the phone, right? Everything's easy. Oh, like let me look up this right away. Like you have a thought and you can find it now.
Yeah.
You're overweight. Let me take this pill. I have that. I'll just do this. That putting in the work, that journey is where we create our resilience. That journey is where we find our kind of worth and value. We're just literally giving up everything that we do, including handwriting, just writing in general, all these things. We don't know. Kids don't know how to read a clock. They don't know what a clock is unless it's digital. It's like, oh, what is it? Oh, I don't know. I mean, not all kids. I mean, luckily our kids went to pretty good schools, but I'm just saying a lot of kids can't do it, and people know that. So I love where you're going with that, and it's like we're losing. If everything's given to you, what is the point? There's no sense of like value and earned. And health is something that we really want to earn. There is no easy pill. There is no nothing.
Let me jump off of that
Of
because I
course.
had this crazy experience I want to share with everyone because I haven't really shared it publicly as much as I want to. But I think it'll give you a little perspective on GLP-1s. I actually was speaking at a GLP-1 conference in December, and I was surrounded by big pharma.
Oh,
And it was a very interesting situation where I was learning all about the latest it was called an innovation forum for GLP-1s. And I came at it from a different perspective, so that was interesting in that, I looked at it I was working in health insurance at the time, so I was looking at it from that perspective and speaking to, do organizations really wanna pay for GLP-1s? They don't. I'll just tell you right now, but good luck, getting that covered in the future because it's breaking the bank on many
gosh.
corporates. Yes, so it's a problem. But what I heard in that room, I wanna share. Here I am surrounded with big pharma, and I feel very outnumbered, and I started to hear about the innovation around GLP-1s. What's next? And there's different I want everyone to know this, that they're working so hard right now for the next latest and greatest that's gonna cover all the side effects. It's gonna just do a better job. They are creating labs that are working on this and selling those labs. And those labs are selling for millions and millions of dollars because they're coming up with these. It's an unbelievably lucrative industry. But additionally, they're working on something called exercise mimetics. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are medications that mimic exercise. We are 2 years away from this pill or injection coming out into the public. What does that mean? It means that because people are not excited to exercise on GLP-1s, they're gonna get a GLP-1 and they're gonna get an exercise mimetic so they don't have to exercise because it's gonna mimic exercise in the body. Physiologically, you can take this pill and it will increase your heart rate, it'll do blood flow increasing all without having to exercise. Now, we don't know what this is gonna mean long term. We don't know how that's gonna affect our overall physiology and our aging process, all of the things that are happening cognitively with this medication and GLP-1s in addition to that. So, and what else will be included in this cocktail? But what I wanna say to everyone is you need to own your health and not be subject to the big pharma. It's gonna be a push, it's gonna be a wave, and it's gonna be difficult not to do that. You're gonna want the exercise pill. You're gonna want the GLP. You're gonna want a pill. That is the easy button. But can I just ask you to stop and think before you do? Because there's a whole nother element to this that you may not understand. If you read my GLP-1 article, and I did write an article on exercise mimetics, if you start to really think about it, you'll have more questions. And the more questions you have, the more questions you'll have because there are no answers. We don't know a lot about these medications, but what we do know is that the body loves exercise. It loves to be active. And nutritionally, we do know what it takes to be healthy and strong. We have the research. And if you think that you are at the whim of something in the environment that is causing you to gain weight, that might be partially true, but you have a lot that you can still do. Don't lose the power that you have to think through this and actually put some actions into place that aren't medications. But it scared me to death. I was there with my daughter in the room, and we were both looking at each other like this is science fiction. And it was the same day that the CEO of United Healthcare was assassinated. And we were in Boston, and that happened just not too far away. And it was surreal. There is a problem right now with Big Pharma. There really is a problem with Big Pharma. They have so much money and they are everywhere. And I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole, but I know it. I saw it and I'm concerned. And I want you to know it because you are then subject to so much pressure to take medications when you really don't have to. Trust me, there are times when you should. Find a doctor that really works hand in hand with your health philosophy. If you're looking for the easy button, I think that you'll be sad that you did.
Now you're going to be really sad. So first of all, you said it's not a science fiction movie. It's a dystopian horror movie.
It really
What it
is.
is, and it's going to end really badly. And
It
so
not yeah.
and again, I'm really careful because, and everyone, I always have to do the disclaimer. There'll be the little disclaimer, not medical advice when I talk, because I'm a physician. So
Yeah,
be
and me
really
too.
careful. Listen, you got to do what you and your doctor says. Ultimately, it's your decision, but I'm
Yeah.
not, unless you want to come see me as a physician, then I'll tell you what I think in a professional capacity. But it is really a horror show. When I was on with Bloom, one of the things we got into, and I've gone into this other stuff, you know what I'm horrified about? Them trying to peddle GLP-1s in kids that are 6 years old, right? And because they keep trying to bring down the age. We have literally zero idea what that does. We know that it works on the pleasure reward center. What if we're tamping that down? What if they're not normal? What if they become, just basically, like sociopaths?
Yeah.
Because you don't know that pleasure reward center and the way that serotonin dopamine center works. It basically it tells us, okay, this is good, this is bad. Like we're just losing our thing, and we are losing our sovereignty over our own bodies,
Yeah.
and we are giving it to we're giving it to big medicine because it is now big medicine. I could tell you, doctors, I talk about this a lot in the book. Doctors are crying out right now because it's gotten corporatized. They've lost their own autonomy, and now they're just sucked in, and it's just part of this big machine that sucks not just the providers in, the patients, everybody sucked into this big machine that is not. We're not getting healthier, by the way. Everything's getting
No.
worse. Like honestly, and this is like whatever. But we really are losing control over our bodies. Now, I'm going to ask you about the mimetics because that's something that maybe I vaguely heard about it. I think that is we're getting to places that's just ridiculous, right? Now, before I get to that, so in our clinic, in our integrative health clinic, we use something called the Neuro 20 suit, which is because a lot of people can't exercise because they've had a
True.
stroke or they whatever
Yeah.
they're very overweight or whatever, and it comes in 7 sizes. But anyway, it stimulates 42 different muscles on the body, so you're stimulating muscular contractions. It's basically EMS, high intensity
Right.
stimulation, but you can do it as a suit. You should look it up. It's fascinating stuff. I actually had Dr. Keith Cronin. He was on the podcast. But anyway, so we use it, and it's amazing, this suit. And that increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It stimulates the muscles. It can kind of mimic exercise, but your muscles are contracting.
Right.
You're getting tired, and then if you exercise while you're in it, it's like
Mhm.
extremely fatiguing. It's amazing, and it's great. We use it for our concussion patients. You can use it for dementia patients because obviously they have trouble exercising, and you're improving blood flow in their brain and brain-derived neurotrophic factor and all these great things. I get that's just stimulating contractions. I mean, that's true. Can you explain to us from what you wrote an article on it, you were at the meeting, like these mimetics. So yes, it can increase blood flow, maybe it can increase your heart rate. I could also just give you a stimulant and do that too. So what's different about it? Like how would they mimic all I mean, will it increase like brain derived neurotrophic factor? Will it change mood? Will it do that, or will it make us sad?
Do we
Because it
know?
it doesn't sound good.
We
And
don't know.
you know
I
who's
think
not
that's
I'm not
I think
taking it.
that's the problem.
I know I'm not taking it. No chance.
I don't think we know yet. And again, it's still in research. So it's being tested as we speak. I don't know when that will be approved, right? I mean, it has to go through all the rigors, right?
When we say
Yeah.
rigors,
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
when we
It
say
needs to
rigors,
go through a
remember a
process.
high percentage, especially when it comes to NIH and all these other, for I was worried I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this. There are so many people that they're on the payroll of big pharma.
Oh,
Let's not.
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. It's everywhere.
if you go to some med school textbooks from at least when I don't know what the med school textbooks look like today. It's been a long time for me, but some of them were sponsored right there. It says right at the end,
Yeah,
sponsored by
absolutely.
a generous gift by whatever. Well, obviously, we're not going to be critical of you if it's sponsored by you.
Right,
Otherwise, you're not
absolutely.
going to
I think that's
sponsor it.
happening in many areas. I
But
know
it's
of
all.
it.
I have this conversation with my patients. I probably said today in my clinic at least to 5 patients, I'm like, you know why you were never offered this other therapy? Because that therapy has nothing to do with big pharma, which has everybody else bought and paid for. So you're going to get where they want to direct you.
That's
And
right.
my colleagues, unfortunately, again in the book, and people are going to say, oh, you just give a pass to the doctors because you're one. No, I'm giving a pass. I'm not giving a pass. I'm not giving a pass to doctors that don't understand anything about root cause medicine or stuff because they need to. But I'm giving a pass in general to our colleagues because number one, I was there, so I want to give myself a little bit of leeway. But number two, because you talk about brainwashed, indoctrinated. We're indoctrinated in this system. We're
Yeah.
there. We're learning from people that have won Nobel Prizes and they're famous doctors and they whatever. And we go to these institutions and you just come out and you're rubber stamped and they say, yep, you're ready to go. You pass your
Mhm.
boards, you're ready to go. And then there's this whole other world outside, and then we just stuck there. So part of it is that whole brain. We're doctors too. We're brainwashed, right? Just like the general public is. So I give them a little bit of a pass. But you're right. Pharma has their hand in everything.
Do.
It's a horrible, situation. I really do hope they ban those pharma commercials because every time I see
Yes.
it, I'm telling you,
Oh,
I'm not big on the wearables. I should be because I'm the only one in my family that doesn't wear them like 24 hours a day. We got an obsessive family with the wearables, but my blood pressure, I'm sure that my heart rate and blood pressure goes up dramatically
Yeah,
every time I see a Skyrizi commercial or a Linzess
me too.
or something like that. You take Linzess, again, not medical advice. I
Too.
literally just this week, I had 2 patients come in with this drug. It's for people for irritable bowel, right? They can't empty. You want to really empty? That'll empty you out. I mean, horrific cramps and miserable and this and that. I was like, or you could take non-resorbable magnesium that you could buy from
There you
Amazon
go.
for $70 and you can have 5 months of it.
Right.
Come on, guys. Who's giving you this stuff? Again, not medical advice. Don't come after me, but
Well, think about it from the individual perspective. They just don't understand that they are really being played.
played.
So there's been so much research in consumer science. And this is really an important area where we can see that they've studied how to get people to purchase things. And so they really rely on a couple of things. One is salience bias.
Mm,
And salience bias is where we pay attention to information that's most noticeable or emotionally striking rather than what is most relevant or accurate.
mm.
That's a human nature response. So, it's something that if we see a Sky Rizzy ad over and over again, then we are more likely to want it just because we saw it. That's just salience bias. If it's an emotionally tugging puppy dogs and running through fields and playing with little kids
And the kite. They always
and the
have they're
kite
flying the kite.
or
Like
balloons,
how
letting
many
them go.
there's 4 adults flying
Aw,
a kite. When was the last time you saw 4 adults in a park flying a kite? Not even a thing. Is that a thing? Are these
that's
people so
fair.
happy? I'm gonna take it because clearly it causes pure, unadulterated joy. Let's go. You know what? When I come and visit you in Wyoming, let's just go fly a kite. It's great. Great stuff.
And the other thing is celebrities,
Yeah.
and celebrity detoxes and celebrity this and that. That too is a actual tool that consumer science has found works and helps sell something to
Of
us.
course.
So part of our skill upskilling is that we need to recognize health misinformation when we see it.
Mhm.
We need to be guarded in everything that we're seeing today because the culture is against your health. It really is. So what do we need to do? We need to train and skill up to see it for what it is and decide what we're going to do. Filter it before it becomes an action that you take. Come up with your policy. Come up with your health philosophy. What is it that you're willing to do to achieve the health that you want to achieve? And be real and honest. Is the health you want to achieve the health that's going to be driven by a pill, by a medication? Or is it something that you can do yourself? And what does that look like for you 10 years down the road? Picture yourself 10 years down the road. Picture yourself 20 years down the road. What do you want to look like? But chances of, and I don't have statistics for this, but I'm sure they're out there. Chances are if you're on one medication, you're likely to get on another one and another one. I
100%.
mean, it does snowball, and I'll look into this at some point and maybe write an article about it because once you're in the system, then it's easy to stay in the system because the side effects and all of that need another medication because the treatment for medication side effects is
Right.
medication. So there you go. And if that's where you want to go, it's your choice. But think about it first. Is that really where you want to go? And so that's really that health intelligence, I call it. Really understanding where your health mindset is, how much strategic thinking will it take to make this decision? You mentioned this earlier, what I call health collaboration. Like, really, how much do you want to rely on doctors, on the people around you, on AI, on Google? Where are you going to get your validated information? Because I'll tell you, AI right now is generating a lot of health information. Health information is the number one search on the internet. And
Absolutely.
AI is now pulling all of this up. But if you are searching for health information, it's starting to learn you. It knows you, and it's starting to auto feed your biases back to you. So you're getting more and more focused and you don't realize it's happening, but the searches are actually intelligent searches that are
Hmm.
curating the information based on the things that you want, not necessarily the things that you need. So you're losing that perspective. So just keep that in mind when you're using AI, when you're Googling. So all of this is just a matter of removing yourself a little bit and just pausing. Again, that pause is so critical from the time that you're in the doctor's office to the time you get home, from the time you have the symptom to the time you decide what to do with it. These are important times. These are the moments that you can take a deep breath and get your emotional self under control and not make those knee-jerk reactions that we're so accustomed to do today, and instead actually think thoughtfully and think of yourself, here I am and here's where I want to go. What are really the steps I wanna take to get there? Is it medication or not? And start just asking those curiosity questions so that when you do make that decision, you've thought through it, and good for you. No matter what you've made, you thoughtfully made it. You can always adjust the ship. You can always re-steer. But just the first time you're making those decisions may feel a little clunky. It's gonna take a little time to be critically thinking through these decisions. But can I tell you, it will get easier. Just do it. Just really give your brain a minute to actually have that space to think.
Yeah, I think that I love that pause. It's the people, a lot of, people talk. I mean, it's just, and again, you're doing it in the health context, but it's those moments in between. It's kind of like knowing what you have to do and then and just taking that pause.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. It's the moments in between. It's not the actual doing the action. Once you're doing it, a lot of things we do is rote or it's easy. It's not that bad. It's just, it's making that decision. I want to go back. I love what you said about the setting the health policy for yourself. That's absolutely right, right? Because what do they do in Congress? Whatever. Suppose what do they do in Congress? What don't I don't know if they do anything in Congress, but they're supposed to be setting certain health policies or whatever. But setting your own personal health policy, figuring out what type of person do you want to be, like
Yeah.
what do you want to be doing? I just love that concept. Let's go back to the system, the trapped in the system thing. Here's what bothers me as a physician, and this is what really spurred me to get out of my own silo. I'm just kind of going along, and yeah, I was always into exercise and diet, and I had been like counseling people for a long time. But when I really got into it, is visit after visit, seeing patients now I had known 10, 15 years. It's mind-boggling. They got into the system. They're trapped in the system, like you said. Here's the thing that's crazy, though. They're literally getting sicker. They've been
Mhm.
going to the same providers for a decade, but they're much worse. Their mental health is worse. Their physical health is worse. They're more obese. They're more hypertensive. They're more diabetic. All these things, and they're on a ton of medications. At some point, do you want to maybe pause and say, you know what? I get that I've been indoctrinated since I was a little kid that, you just do whatever, people tell you to do, but it's not working because I'm getting sicker and sicker, and they're just trapped in this loop. And the interesting thing is when I change yeah, I would just talk about the diet, like I said, and mostly diet, putting them on different diets. I'm just trying to put them on either intermittent fasting or paleo diet, things like that, because compared to the American diet, those are amazing, right? But it's like now when I sit down with them and talk about them being trapped, you're trapped in the system and you ask them real questions. You've been treating for 10 years. You're on all these medications. Are you any better? Oh my God, I'm so much worse. Then why are you doing the same things when there's all this other stuff to do? There's all these brilliant people writing books about how, like your book, like how do we get out of this? How do we get unstuck? There's so much information. And when you start talking about it, a lot of people get tearful and they get whatever, but somebody's finally saying, wake up. You get a I don't
Yeah.
want to call it a slap in the face. Then I'll be accused of being, whatever. People want to say anything about it, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that that's like a really important thing to focus on is getting them out of this. It's a doom loop, right?
It
It's just this
is.
doom loop. I don't know how else to put
It
it.
doesn't have to be that way most of the time, and I think that's hopeful for a lot of people. Hear it from a physician is magic because they're looking for someone to guide them. Literally, almost everybody will do whatever a doctor says. There's a few people that are stopping now. I think more are coming to the conclusion that they need to stop and pause and think about it. But I think for the most part, still people are very reactive. And when a doctor says go, they go. When a doctor says stop, they stop. If we can have doctors do a little more of that coaching, like, is this okay with you to be on 10
Mhm.
medications? How do you feel about that? Then you'll start to see tears. And I do see tears all the time. I have to tell you a quick story about a client of mine. So I have a group of health navigator coaches that help people in the midst of a health crisis. And I was actually doing a coaching session with a mom who has a daughter who is 14, and she had chronic hepatitis randomly. I
Mm.
think it was probably a viral thing. So she got it, and the doctors immediately said, "Okay, we got to get her on prednisone right away, and we're probably going to have to do a liver transplant at some point." And when I talked to the mom, I said, "What do you think about that? Was she healthy before?" She said, "Yeah, she's been an athlete. She's wonderful, very, very athletic, eat well, the whole thing." And I
Mhm.
said, "So what makes you think that she can't heal?" "Well, the doctor says so." "Well, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that?" And she said, "I think she can heal." And I said, "Well, here's some ways to think about that. You've got medical care. Very top of the pyramid is this chronic condition right here. Medical care is key. And that prednisone probably saved her life,
Of
right?
course, of
But
course.
then, you can, if she was healthy at the bottom, really healthy, not chronic, she was healthy just a few weeks ago, chances of her moving back down to healthy are really good. But if you look at it from oh, doctor says she's chronic, she's going to stay chronic for the rest of your life, question it. Is that really true? Maybe it is in some cases, but
Mm.
it's worth questioning. Well, let's fast forward 6 months. She is not on any medication. She does not need a liver transplant. She is doing well. She's back in
It's
athletics and she's
fabulous.
fine because she can heal. We can heal. We don't always need medication. Sometimes we do. Thank heavens for it. I'm so thankful for it. But I got to tell you, just that whole coaching session to see how a mom, their whole family stopped eating sugar. They changed
Amazing.
their whole pantry. The whole process was enlightening in that they were no longer victims of the healthcare system and the doom that came with it. They had some power, and they took that power in their own hands. I didn't tell them what to do. What they did is they figured it out. They intentionally thought about it, and that's that intentional change theory where, there's what do I want? Where do I wanna go? I wanna go get my daughter out of this sick state into back to healthy, and I wanna do it without medications if possible, or I'm gonna keep those medications on board until there's a point in time where I don't have to, but you're gonna try to get her off of those medications. That was their goal, and they reached their goal. If you don't have that goal, you have no vision. You have no philosophy. You're at the whim of whatever someone tells you, and you could, get a different doctor the next day and get a different prescription. I mean, so I know this sounds pretty intuitive. People probably are like, "Yes, I know I should think about it, but I'm scared.
Mhm,
I'm
of
worried.
course.
I'm in the moment." And can I just tell you that emotional intelligence is so key here. It's okay to be emotional. Health is scary. Health is one of the scariest things we've got to deal with on the daily. And so this is where we need to be gentle with ourselves, but we also have to understand that emotions shouldn't always drive our actions. So, keeping that in mind, how do we really just navigate that emotional landscape to get to a place where we can be objective and not be at the whim of our emotions? I know people want to lose weight and they're emotional about
Mhm.
it. I understand that completely. Can I tell you that's okay, but don't stay there because that's not where you're going to get ahead. Think about an athlete. They get emotional before they perform. They're gonna have to overcome that to perform well. So will you. It will take a little work, but you can do it.
You know what? That is such a core problem that people face, and I see it, and it's one of the saddest things I see, and those are the patients I end up spending more time with because I see that they're broken in a certain way, And that is having the victim and that victim mentality where they're just like, they've given up. They're like, well, unless you guys fix me, you figure out how to fix me and whatever. The difference in the way that people heal, both mentally and physically, when they are taking true ownership over their own health, and they're guiding their journey. They have a mission, and their mission is to get themselves healthy, or their help their family members or whatever. In just a simple thing, them having like a major spine surgery, those that have victim mentalities don't do anywhere near as well. The people that are like, doc, I'm going to have this surgery and then I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to exercise afterwards so I can recover appropriately. I'm going to find the best therapist and the best this and that. Please send me. I'm going to do everything. Those people, they're in a better state, right? They're in this parasympathetic state. They're oozing the chemicals that they're oozing, right? We're just batteries, right? They're just making these things that help to heal them, as opposed to when you're in the victim mentality, right? You're always in that fight or flight. Everything's horrible. The world is falling. And again, it's not. Look, I don't want people to say that, because there's situations people are in where it's hard not to feel like it's hard. It's damn near
Agree.
impossible, and you do need some professional help to kind of get over that, or family support or whatever. But what a difference. And so when I the thing that bothers me when people have victim mentalities over like a spine condition, it's a little different because I can directly do something about, no, we have it. But when they have a victim mentality over their entire life, and they're sick, and they're only 45 years old and they look like they're 70, then I have to spend some serious time with them. And we have to have like really deep, even if I don't even know these people, I'm like, let's have a timeout. I don't want to talk about your back anymore. I want to talk about, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like, how did we get to this moment? And what can I do? So then we get into like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want? Do you want to golf again? Do you want to do this? Do you want to just see, your kids graduate from? I don't know what you want, but you need a mission. You need something. So then you don't feel like you're a victim. You're just waiting for the next bad thing to happen to you. And that's what happened. So I love that story because they're positive. I believe this is, I don't even have to say I believe this. This is science.
Yeah.
The fact that you help them to get into that a very empowered state, and help them to do that. When you truly believe you're going to heal, I'm not saying you're always going to heal, but boy,
Right.
your chances are much better. If you look at
Right.
brain scans with people that
Yep.
are in those things, they light up. They're beautiful scans, right? You just, all these things. It's like people don't know it, and it's frustrating. And again, they get into the loop of healthcare. They're victims. And healthcare today, traditional healthcare, is not designed for the providers maybe to take a pause and say, you know what? I know they're coming for this. I'm going to pause because they don't need this. Yes, they might need it, but right now they need like a hug. Right now they need support. They need somebody to tell them, like I do the mirror thing. I'm like, I go both ways. I say, it's just kind of, I was like, hey, look in the mirror. And if you do these things, think about what you'll look like in 20 years. Or if you do these things, think about what you'll look like. We do that. But we also go backwards. When I really have to have like a thing and they're non-responsive, I say, listen, when you were sitting in class in 8th grade, and you were like fantasizing about, what you wanted to be when you grow up and kind of lifestyle, I was like, is this what you were preaching? This is what we're doing right now?
Wow.
Again, this is not for somebody who's had a major accident that had nothing to do with
For
it, but
sure.
it's like
Right.
a lifestyle thing. I'm like, this is what we're doing. Really. And then
Mhm.
they're like, and then again, the tears, and people are like, oh, this sucks, whatever. And maybe we can get somewhere. So whatever. I
Right.
try to do a little there, but like I said, this
Uh,
love, what you're doing, and counseling, that positivity, it
yeah.
cannot be like, we cannot overstate how important it is. Think about how much better cancer people do when they're
Absolutely.
positive and they believe they're going to heal.
Mhm.
Surgery.
Yep.
You know what? You know where it's really well studied? Heart attacks.
Yep.
People that are positive and that have good, strong social support around them, no question
Agree.
they do better. No question.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you hit right on. This is something I'm passionate about. You push the right button. If people have no idea how to make health decisions right now, like they have no clue, they don't know where to start. Somebody's watching this, they're lost. they're like, this is all nice, but so far you guys have, you've talked about this and that. And I'm glad you're passionate about it, but I'm here and I feel terrible. What's the first thing that people should do to get themselves? Do you think that they should reach out and say, hey, let me see, I can't do this alone, let me look for a coach? Should they go to AI and say, give me the top 10 self-help books for somebody that's really struggling with their health and has no idea what to do? I mean, what should they do? What is like give us like one actionable step that they could do, right now? I know these are the hardest questions because you asked me to summarize in one thing, and I'll give you 10 answers because I can't do it.
I think the most important word to think about is curiosity.
Mm,
When we're dealing with a lot of different health issues or something is just not healing,
mm,
just explore and start looking into the cause, what could be happening, why are you feeling like you're feeling? We are very complex
mm,
creatures, but we also are very simple. When we are in the midst of a health scare, our emotions dominate. So,
mm.
first, maybe take a deep breath and let those emotions be for a minute, and then just start asking some questions. And I call this doing the work. You could ask yourself, where is it I want to go from here? And how do I get there? And type that into AI, type
Mhm.
that into Google. How to get, so if you are really wanting to heal, let's say you have diabetes and you really want to heal and you see yourself in 3 years being free from this disease, what's it going to take? So you're here, you want to go there. Be curious, what's it going to take to get there? Because if you break it down and you make a plan, you will get there. You will get there. But start with, here I am, this is a reality. Be objective. Don't be subjective. I get it. It hurts. It's hard. But when you're in the moment and you don't have anyone there, you don't have a Dr. Stefano to say, how did you get here? Did you envision yourself to be here right now? But instead, ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
How did I get here? And where do I want to go? And how do I get there? And start clarifying the steps to get there. I call it the healthier journey. In my book, I actually have a journey that you can take to get from here to there in the book. So you can get there, but just stop and think first.
I love it. That well said. Curiosity.
Mhm.
So, in your own personal life, how have you implemented these
Mm.
strategies, like, for yourself? Is there something that you can share that, like, I love sharing I share my stuff all the time, but how have you, like, implemented this in your life? Has there been a situation either with you or your family where this strategy of curiosity has really saved your day or put you on a path that is a healing path, and it's made all the difference? Something you can point,
Yeah.
hey, I ended up doing this. So just a little personal, reflection as people are starting to get to know you. They're like, well, what about you guys
Yeah.
didn't
You
talk
say
about?
that.
Yeah, we said, because that's why I always share so much about myself, because people are like, well, it's easy for you because you did this and that. I'm like, read the
Mm.
book about my upbringing and you'll be like, oh,
Exactly, right?
all
We
right,
all
forget
go
it.
through
Forget it. We get it. You're like us. We're good. We're good now. But go ahead.
We're all human, we all go through
Yeah.
it. Really the where this originated from is being a mom. When
Mm,
you're a mom, your kids go through stuff. I've had some really crazy health issues with my 4 kids, and each of them had their thing, and, probably the one that really changed my entire perspective was one of my sons had this nebulous health concern of fatigue and IBS, and nobody knew what to do. They could not diagnose it. He went through all the scans, all the tests, and even the pediatrician said, "I think it's all in his head." And I said, "I'm his mom. It's not all in his head." Some of it perhaps was, but I knew it wasn't all there. And so I then created this, I called it fountain of options because I thought he has to own his outcome. And so I put down some things that we could do in the lifestyle realm, in the complementary realm, in the medical. And I said, for the medical, let's rule out all the bad stuff. Now you get to choose. What do you want to do in lifestyle and complementary? And I said, pick 3 in each. And we went through it. He picked 3 in each, slowly started to recover. I'll tell you, one of the things he picked was meditation. And he was probably 12 or so at the time. He is such an amazing meditator. So he can meditate anywhere. He just stops and meditates. But it's become this skill that he has taught himself. And he was able to calm his vagus nerve system, the
Yes.
whole body, and just zone and be and not have the emotion and the heavy that all went with it. He took a whole year off school
Wow.
because of this. But at the end, he recovered. He has learned those skills. And I'll tell you, it's absolutely amazing to see all my kids using these skills. My daughter has her own set of health issues, especially around the hormones.
Mhm.
And she gets constant nausea, and she had PMDD, and all the things that young girls have to deal with, and it's just confusing, right? Women are confusing and all the hormones are confusing, and so we took this system, the same system, and we said, "Well, let's just start somewhere. What are 3 things you can do in the lifestyle, and what are 3 things you can do in complementary that really might make sense here?" And we experimented, and we are the great experiment. So I experiment with myself all the time. Back in the day, doing all the athletics, I was a bodybuilder. And I did some crazy dieting to get to cut and all the things, and then, eat last minute and bulk and and you just learn about yourself as you go along. I keep getting weird symptoms as I age. It's so strange. They just come upon me, but I don't react. I don't have that knee-jerk reaction. I'm very curious, like, what's going on, little body? Tell me what's happening. And I start from that curiosity perspective. Why is this? What could be going on? What's going on outside of me? So this curiosity mindset that really did spark the book, Health Shift, was really from my kids, but it applies to anyone, everyone. It's just that being able to, like, calm down and start with a plan and don't overreact, don't underreact, and kind of find your groove.
Yeah, I think that that's awesome. You know what you're doing? You are empowered your children,
Yeah.
right? You made them you helped them to be the CEOs of their own health.
Yes. Yes.
And when they feel empowered, you said, "Well, you pick. You pick something in this realm, and you pick something in that realm." As opposed to you forcing them to do something, because obviously children don't respond. My kids respond 0 to forcing. So everything has to be like, "You pick." And I think in the health realm, it's great because most parents don't do that, right? They're gonna direct their kids exactly what to do. So it sounds like your son felt really empowered by doing that, and now I mean, anybody who can meditate anywhere, that's an amazing skill that everyone
Unbelievable.
should learn.
He is the most zen, calm
That's
kid I've ever
amazing.
seen in my life. If
That
you meet him, you can tell, but
Oh,
this was learned, right? And that's the thing I want,
yeah,
like, the big idea there is that, you can learn these skills. It's not gonna come to
yeah.
you. You have to intentionally go to it. It's gonna take a little bit of effort on your part. Otherwise, you're passive writer of your health journey. Be an active, involved unit in your home. Own your health. It's yours. Make it part of who you are and how you move in the world. Your health isn't over here to manage. It's part of you in the moment, even right now. It's part of you. Take a deep breath. How does that feel? And when we start to understand how it all interacts, you'll start to gain the skill, and it's just something you have to practice.
I love that, and it's a little overused by all the self-help, guru, but it's like, and it's just true. It's like, don't let life happen to you. Yeah, that's the victim, right? Life happens for us. So we have all these options, and when we feel empowered, that's all we can do is we can take care of our local surroundings, and then that helps, us to then like see the world a certain way, and then we're better for others. It's just this whole thing about it's just empowerment, and I see so many people that feel such loss of control. There's such
Mhm.
loss of control right now in the social and the constant buzzing, all the stuff around us. It's really you said it before. It is really a very difficult time for people, for the human, species. And now we're going to be cohabitating with AI, which is about to become pretty much sentient. And hopefully, whatever. I try to be apolitical, but I sure do hope that America wins the AI race, because otherwise, it's not going to be good. I will just leave it at that. It's just, it's not, it's really, that's a whole other thing. And I've had some really interesting people on AI, and there's definitely sparks of there's some scary stuff going on right now in AI. We'll leave that for
Another
for another time, but it's hard for people. Bottom line is it's really hard, and people are just struggling. Attention spans are like 10 seconds. You got adults sitting in their car, at soccer practice, instead of like meditating, they should, your son should do a course. They're literally scrolling on cat videos, for 2 hours. They could be working on themselves. They could be learning about their health condition. They could be doing whatever, do something, go take a walk, taking a walk, whatever. It doesn't matter. Even if you're in the inner city, it's better than doom scrolling all day and turning our brains into mush. And then you wonder why you feel helpless. Everything's happening to you, all the stuff. One last thing, before we kind of wrap it up. You brought up the whole one, but I am deeply become super, super passionate about like women's health. Okay. And we don't have to, we could have we could have done the whole podcast just on women's health. And you brought up some of the hormonal issues your daughter had. And, one of the things we talk about a lot, at our clinics is this women really not being heard in the traditional medical settings. They're really not. And you hear these stories, because now I ask, and perimenopausal symptoms, true perimenopausal symptoms, whereas hormone related or whatever it is, where they're really struggling, is blown off. Oh, you're just depressed. Go get a hobby. Get on this, on this SSRI, which is for those that you don't know, it's antidepressant. Antidepressants. Prozac is an example of kind of an SSRI. Oof. Why? In women specific, and listen, men have their own, there's plenty of stuff that gets blown up, but why is it so hard for women to navigate like our healthcare system right now? I didn't know until I started asking the like women, and I saw it, and I just saw like when they're sick, it's just different. We have different, obviously we have different issues.
Mm.
Why are they not heard so much? I know there's celebrities now talking about how they
Mhm.
even got blown off, for their perimenopausal symptoms and stuff. But why do you think that is? Why is it? What is it that makes people blow off, women when they're like, you know what? I'm really tired all the time and I don't know what to do. I
Yeah,
can't sleep. I feel anxious. You're fine. Whatever. Like, why? Why is it? You know, so hard?
yeah, well, historically, studies were done on men,
Yeah, that.
and so there weren't a lot of female studies around it, so really doctors didn't have what they needed, right, to be able to address it in the way it should have been addressed from the beginning. But I also think our culture isn't one that really relishes the aging process.
Mhm.
We fight it all the way. And so when we're fighting the aging process and we're expecting to have these young bodies when we are an older model or, like, then we're setting false expectations and then we're wanting to fix that. That's not something to fix. Women aren't broken. And we assume because we're going through all of the hormonal shifts and changes that we need to go back to where we were when we were young. Why do we think that's true? And I think so the culture around aging is so different in other countries. I lived in Japan and Bolivia, and it's not this way.
No.
It's not this way. As a matter of fact, there's an embracing of the aging woman as the elder that really has the wisdom and it's something to actually honor. And so there's a shifting of the mindset that I think we can adopt as women in it and not expect the healthcare system to fix it. It's coming that they're like coming up with medications and hormone replacement therapies and different kinds of interventions for sure. Physiologically, what is that doing to you? When you think about introducing an exogenous hormone within the body, think about it from a physiological perspective. You have just introduced a whole nother hormone on top of an ebbing hormone. You've influenced it artificially. It's going to have some side effects. It's going to not be the same. Is that okay with you? Is it just a symptom masking? So I again go back to the individual. Let's empower them. Let's empower women to ask these questions. How do I want to age? Do I want to age and fight it? Or do I want to age and embrace it? Do I want to feel better for a while and then wean off of it? There's no right or wrong answer here, by the way. It's just a matter of finding your philosophy around the aging question. But women are complicated. We've got a lot of hormones, estrogen, progesterone, all the things, testosterone. We're all kinds of, ebbs and flows. And when does it even out? It depends on who you are, like genetics and all the things. So don't get overwhelmed by that. Ask yourself how you want to move through that. How do you want to move through that? Not how is your doctor telling you to move through that. You get to decide at the end of the day. And yeah, don't look to medical system to catch up because it will take time. It always takes time. Until then, you need to be doing some thinking about that. And we all age. So even if you're young and you're listening to this, think about it now. And think about exogenous hormones when it comes to birth control. There's so much more research now on how that's impacting overall mental health. And birth control is a whole nother can of worms to open and look into because I think it's really important that we understand when we introduce a hormone into our body, and you know this, it's not simple. Hormones impact everything. You introduce one hormone, it's going to impact them all. So figure out how you want to move through your life and aging.
I think you're right. And I just say again, not medical advice, but I think it's really important because for the people that are doing the hormonal management, it's really important. And, I had a great integrative health specialist who left OBGYN to do integrative health. So she does a lot of hormonal things, but it's always balance, right? Because you want to see where's your progesterone, where's your estrogen, where's your testosterone. It's a
Exactly.
balance. You can't do so once you go down that path,
Yeah.
if you decide you want to go down that path, especially if you're having symptoms, like if you're having depression that's related to that, then hormonal management is reasonable. But you can't just do one thing because it's going to throw off the other things. So you need to seek the types of providers that understand balance and also understand, like what are the biohacks that you can do, what diets can help you with these symptoms, what not just we just do this, we write a prescription, we'll see you in 3 months for your refill or whatever, whatever
Right.
it might be. So
Well,
I love that.
don't forget the core four.
Yep,
Because you can
absolutely.
manipulate exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep accordingly. And I know sleep goes down with hormone changes. Sleep can be disrupted. So you're the great experiment of you. And you're constantly changing. You're never gonna find the solution for long because you'll change. That's
No,
that's
it's an over and when you mention sleep, one other thing, which is advice, which is fine, but for those of people that are having trouble sleeping, please talk to your providers about potentially having a home breathing test. And then if there's something picks up because sleep apnea, upper airway resistance syndrome, these things are so common in the population. And if your sleep is constantly disrupted, it changes everything. You
it
can't.
does.
And it's a snowball. So thanks. I know you're hitting, but you're right. That core four, that's like the basics. If
Foundational.
you're not doing that, everything else is like
Yeah, so
you're
start there,
masking.
always,
You're
right?
just masking. Core four. I love that. A core four. I'm going to use that.
Core 4, man. All
Core
the way. You
four.
can use it
Core
as much as
four
you
all
want.
the way. All right. So hopefully people have really gotten a lot out of this. This has been great. So can you tell everyone first of all, tell them, you know, where to get your book, the best way to get your book, the best way to find you. Do you want them to find you on social media? Like you just say everything, and then we'll put that on the we'll scroll that on the screen when they watch the podcast, so they know everywhere to find you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was such
That's
a pleasure. My
that's
favorite
great.
topic, obviously. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing, I do have a website, draliceburron.com, and that's Dr. Alice Burron, Burron as in Nancy .com. And then I do have a book website called healthshiftbook.com, not to be confused with healthshitbook.com. So healthshiftbook.com.
Got it.
But it's also on Amazon. So just look up Health Shift, your strategic guide to making your personalized guide to making strategic health decisions. And and I'm also active on Strategic Action Health is my company. So I work with corporations on helping their employees make better health decisions. So if you're an organization looking to do that, I'm there. I also write a lot. So I'm a prolific writer on Substack. So you can just type in the Google search, Dr. Alice Burron Substack, and you'll find all my articles there. Everything that we talked about today, I've probably written an article about, and I'm open to ideas too, but this is really my jam. So I'm loving it. Thank you so much. Sure appreciate it.
This has been great. It's been a great conversation. We could have gone down. Well, you mentioned the word rabbit hole. I'm a rabbit hole guy. If we
Yeah,
go
me
the
too.
rabbit hole, the whole entire, like just the GLP-1s, we could have just talked about GLP-1s for 2 hours
We could
because
have.
it's interesting. I've made a couple posts like early when I was doing social. People were so angry that I was just asking questions about GLP-1s and whether there's negative. I mean, literally, like I was
Yes.
getting like hate. I'm
Yes.
like, I'm just a spine surgeon. I'm just asking a question. I'm
Serious.
asking a question. It's like what you know what one of my favorite posts ever. You talk. All I did was do the vegan versus carnivore. Oh my God. People were
Mhm.
getting so angry on
Yeah.
both sides. And then they
Yes.
started bashing each other and they're like, that's it. They're idiots and you don't know. I mean, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do.
No. Yes.
Sustainability, right?
I mean, it's so
Intentionality, sustainability.
personal, I get it, it's so personal, but the fact is, what one person is doing does not mean we have to do it, and vice versa. We are individuals and unique, we get to choose, and there's no right or wrong, stop that, it's not black and white, there's all kinds of gray.
All right. Well, everybody go listen. This has been great. Go get that book, learn how to make the proper health decisions. And listen, if your son's meditating everywhere on the spot, people have got to go get the book and figure out how they can get their kids to do it at least. If they don't want to help themselves, at least help your children for God's sake. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us on another episode of Wellness at the Speed of Light. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time.